If you could sell your anger at a street market, who would buy it? And for how much? Picture a wooden stall between the spice man and the woman who mends umbrellas. On the counter, a clean glass jar with a paper label in plain handwriting, anger. You stand behind it like a shopkeeper of storms, waiting for a buyer bold enough to pay in peace. A boy offers a marble. A preacher offers a verse. A rival offers envy, fair trade. You smile the way people smile when they are not fine. Listen to the city counting you down. Wheels on cobbles, a clock you can't see, a kettle that never whistles. Every sound asks the same price. You touch the jar and feel a heat that isn't there. You tell yourself this heat protects your dignity, keeps the dust off your name. But dignity bought with fire always burns the buyer first. A coin finally drops on the counter. It doesn't ring. It lands like a small apology and stays quiet. No one takes the jar. The market exhales. The light tilts. You realize the math never worked. Feelings don't sell, they rent space, daily. And yet, a second number appears, written in the air between breath and choice. What if the business was never selling the anger, but refusing to purchase its offer? Part 1. Setup and Spark. The cobbler lived in a lane where shoes forgot their owners' names. He stitched mornings to evenings with a needle that bent like a tired rule. Rent was a wall he kept measuring with string. Customers walked in carrying two things, leather and weather. Some left with mended soles, others left a storm. On Tuesdays, the city tested him. A man in a blue coat returned a pair he had worn hard and blamed harder. "This stitch," he said, tapping the seam like a judge, "is not dignity." The words landed on the counter like wet ash. The cobbler swallowed a dozen replies and chose the worst one. Silence soaked in heat. For an hour his hands went fast and wrong. Threads snapped, awls slipped. The kettle hiccuped and never reached a boil. He told himself anger was a guard dog. It barked whenever someone kicked the gate of his worth. But guard dogs that never sleep bite their owner first. By dusk, his palms ached, and the shop smelled of glue and pride. Outside, a market crier sold peaches by the kilo and promises by the handful. It was then a stray thought, half joke, half prayer, arrived. What if I simply sold the anger? He found a jar, the kind that once held apricot jam, and washed it until the glass forgot its past sweetness. He cut a label from the back of an unpaid bill and wrote in neat, stubborn letters, "Anger." He set the jar on a wooden crate near the door, where light could find it. He painted a small sign with leftover shoe dye, "For sale." People are braver in front of signs. A boy offered a green marble, the planet in miniature. A preacher traded a verse with a warning attached. A rival craftsman proposed an exchange, "Your anger for my envy." Even swap. The cobbler smiled the small, flat smile of a man who has mistaken heat for strength. Evening leaned across the lane. The blue-coat customer passed again, glanced at the jar, and laughed the way a match laughs before it burns. The cobbler's hand twitched toward the coin dish and stopped. Somewhere between breath and choice, a quieter arithmetic began to sharpen its pencil. Part 2. Trials and Insight. Morning returned with the kind of light that forgives streets, but not habits. The jar waited on the crate like a dare. People came the way thoughts come, some loud, some useful, most passing. The boy with the marble returned and rolled his planet across the counter. "2 marbles," he bargained, "and I'll take half your anger." The cobbler almost laughed. Name it, he thought, surprising himself. This is frustration wearing a child's shoes. He slid the marbles back and said gently, "Keep your world." At noon, the preacher arrived, wind in his coat like a portable bell. He quoted heat into holiness and tagged a price on paradise. "Give me the jar," he said, "and take this verse. It will burn slower, notice it." The cobbler told his chest, where the first drum beats began. "This is my body priming for a fight it doesn't need." He thanked the man and did not buy the sermon. By afternoon, the rival craftsman leaned in, envy shining like oil on water. "Trade you," he whispered, "anger for envy. Mine ruins quieter." The cobbler touched the glass. It was cool. "Normalize it." He reminded the part of him that wanted to win. Everyone offers a shortcut. Everyone thinks their poison is tea. He declined the swap. An old woman came last, with a purse that sounded like a small rain. "Does it come with interest?" she asked, tapping the jar. "Debt often does." The question slipped past his pride and found the truth. Anger had been lending him a false dignity at usury rates. By night, he always owed more. He looked at the sign, then at his hands. Navigate, he told himself, the fourth verb like a new tool. Don't sell, don't swallow, choose. When the market thinned and the sky turned violet with the city's slow apology, he lifted the jar and felt nothing. No heat, no storm. Just glass and the weight of a habit. "You're not inventory," he said to the air that used to boil. "You're a visitor." He carried the jar to the window and placed it on the outer sill, where the dust could keep it company and the wind could practice leaving. Inside, the shop breathed. Thread found its rhythm. The kettle finally sang. A customer complained, and he heard the words without renting a room to them. Between stimulus and sale, a small space had opened. Big enough for a man to stand in, big enough to work. Tomorrow, he would repaint the sign. Tonight, he would test the new arithmetic. Every breath a coin he could spend on a response. Part 3. Practice and Payoff. Morning came like a calm teacher. Same lesson, kinder tone. The jar rested outside on the windowsill, gathering a thin fur of dust, like a word the mouth had finally stopped using. Inside, the cobbler set 3 quiet rules on the counter next to the awl. Breathe. Name. Choose. The first test arrived wearing hurry. A man burst in with split soles and a louder story. "You people never listen," he said, slapping the leather as if it had sinned. The old reflex reached for the flint. The new one reached for air. 3 breaths. The heat softened into shape. "Here's what I can do by Friday," the cobbler said, voice steady as a ruler. The man blinked, argument misplaced, then nodded. Half the price, double the respect. The second test came by ledger. The supplier had delayed, left him with empty shelves and a promise that tasted like dust. The cobbler wrote the feeling on a scrap, disappointment, not doom, and slipped it under the coin dish as if filing it with the taxes. Then he picked up the phone. No blame, only terms. Partial delivery today, full next week. A discount for the bridge he had to build with patience. The supplier agreed. It turned out clarity carries its own weather. The third test arrived small and honest. The marble boy returned with shoes too tired for a child. He had tried to fix them with tape and hope. When the tape failed, he tried lying. The cobbler recognized the old dog at the gate and did not feed it. "Bring me the truth, and I'll show you a stitch," he said. They worked side by side, the boy learning the rhythm of thread. In, through, back, breathe. When they finished, both smiled with the particular pride of repairs that hold. By noon, the shop had a different gravity. Complaints entered, but they did not orbit. Praise visited and did not crown him. He repainted the sign above the door in deliberate letters, each stroke a small refusal of the old economy. Responses, free. He placed the brush down and waited for the usual ache. It did not come. Outside, a gust lifted the dust from the jar and carried it down the lane like a soft dismissal. The cobbler watched it go, not triumphant, not afraid. Just a man at work in a room with more space than yesterday. He stitched another seam, slower than pride, faster than resentment, exactly at the speed of choice. There is a market in every city where people try to buy their lives from their feelings. He kept his stall, but changed his goods. And when the blue-coat customer passed again, the cobbler met his gaze and offered the only honest price left in him. A clear estimate, a fair repair, and silence that did not burn. You don't sell anger. You stop buying its offer and spend your breath on answers. Take one last look at the jar on the windowsill. It's only glass now, dust turning to glitter when the light remembers it. That's what a habit becomes when you stop mistaking it for fate. Something you can set down, outside, where weather and time finish the argument you no longer need. Tomorrow will test you again. Late deliveries, careless words, the old blue coat with new complaints. Let them arrive. You don't have to become the room they enter. Breathe once, twice, a third time, like the slow tightening of a clean stitch. Dignity isn't heat. Dignity is precision, answering once, clearly, without smoke. Here's the practice the cobbler learned, and you can use it today. Breathe. 3 quiet breaths widen the gap between trigger and choice. 4N. Name the feeling. Notice it in the body. Normalize it. Humans feel. Then navigate toward a useful action. Choose by values. Pick the response that serves the day you want to build. Craft, care, clarity. Not suppression. Selection. Rehearse the swap. When X happens, I used to Y. Now I Z because value. Repetition turns choices into character. If anger knocks, seat it outside. If it bargains, refuse the price. Spend your breath where it compounds. On fair sentences, honest estimates, small repairs you can actually deliver. Let praise visit without crowning you. Let blame pass without hiring it as counsel. Mastery isn't the death of feeling. It's better accounting, no more buying what doesn't pay. If this story helped you choose even one response today, pass it to someone who might need a little space between spark and answer. That's the market we keep, one breath at a time until the jar gathers nothing but light.